My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm your first friend in Alaska. I'm also an associate real estate broker in South Central Alaska, and today we're going to be talking about something that's a little directly into my wheelhouse, talking about the fatal mistakes that people make when they're trying to purchase a home in Alaska. And when I say fatal, these are usually mistakes that can derail the entire process and in some instances make people stop looking for a home altogether. So we'll be jumping into that in just a minute. Before we get started though, do make sure you give this video a like, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and let's get into it. One of the big mistakes I see right off the bat is a lot of people start looking at individual houses before they've actually narrowed down the specific area that they're interested in. And I know this is kind of counterintuitive because we've got Zillow and that's really easy and it makes it super simple to just go online and start flipping through options. And it's like, oh, this one's 40 miles away. This one's 50 miles away. Oh, well, this one's really cute, but it is 100 miles away, but I'm sure that's okay. I'm just fine with that. Before you start looking at individual houses, you need to define what area, have a perimeter for where you plan on being and only look for stuff within that specific area. The reason for that is I've seen this time and time and time again. People are like, well, if it's the right house, I'll be willing to go outside this area. I don't think I've seen that happen a single time. What happens is people will say, okay, I'm gonna purchase in this area, or I'm gonna be willing to purchase outside here for this property, and they go take a look at it, and they sit down, they hem, they haw, we drive a long way to get there, and ultimately they decide not to because it's the right house, but it's in the wrong area. And if it comes down to a decision between buying something in the right area or the right house, people are going to choose the area. So before you even start looking at individual houses, make sure you find the specific area that you're wanting to be in. And sometimes you're just not going to know that if you can't physically be up here, but you can get a feel for it through this channel, specifically in South Central Alaska, kind of talking about the specific areas that you might want to consider looking at. So, do take advantage of that as best you can. And sometimes the best thing you can do is just show up and drive around these neighborhoods in these different areas to try to get the vibe of the tribe. Another big mistake I see people make when they're wanting to purchase a property up here is not giving enough attention to the topographical features of the area. For instance, are there avalanches in the area? I know this is, kind of a nice property perched out here on the mountainside and it looks incredible. Are we in the path of any potential avalanches though? What about wetlands? Do we need to worry about mosquitoes and everything coming up? Is there muskeg, which for those of you who've not run into muskeg before, it is, how's the best way to describe it? It's like the entire ground is a water bed, okay? It's like there's a layer of this thick of dirt and all that that's just kind of floating on top of this underground water bed. And you're just walking on it, and yeah, it's really trippy once you've done it a couple times. But really pay attention to the topographical features of the area that is unique to Alaska, or maybe it's not unique, it's just more prevalent up here. Make sure you're paying attention to those because, it might not be a big deal now, but once you get up here and you live up here for a while, you might take another look at it and be like, maybe there's a reason we got that for about $100,000 less than the other properties. Third big mistake I see people make is not really paying attention to how much sunlight they're going to be getting at that specific house during the winter time. There are some places really in Anchorage and Eagle River and Chugiak where they just do not get a whole lot of sunlight during the winter time. And that might not mean anything to you, okay? Having that direct sunlight into your property might not be that big of a deal. For other people, though, it is definitely going to be something that's going to impact them. So you just kind of have to know who you are and you have to know what you're getting into. The sun in Alaska does not rise and set in the same pattern all year round. I know this is the same for everywhere, but it is way more extreme in Alaska, where during the wintertime, it doesn't go up and over. It's going to have this really just following along the ridge, drawing a blank on the word, but it just doesn't really fully get up into the sky. And so if you're right behind a mountain, there's a good chance it's going to get blocked. And if you're really down low towards a river in an area that doesn't get much sunlight, it is going to get cold. And that is just something you have to be prepared for. And it's not going to be something you're thinking about if you're there during the summertime where it's just bright and sunny and glorious. Now, this next one is more of a big deal for some areas than it is for others, and that is not paying attention to where the busy roads are. And the reason that I bring this up is Alaska is really a developing area. And if you have a house that is right on top of a busy road, and it's a developing area, you see more new construction homes coming in all the time, there's a good chance that road is going to get broadened out at some point. And if you're not careful, you can find out the hard way what eminent domain is. And the fear is that, once you get to the point where, we need to broaden this road out, then the powers that be can just broaden the road, and they can just force you to sell like whatever piece of your property that they need in order to make that happen, because, hey, it is dangerous on that road and people are dying, and so it's in the public best interest to do that. And they've got hundreds of years worth of precedent to back them up, so it's not even worth fighting. Just take the check and go. But the easiest thing you can do right now is just looking and thinking in the perspective of what is this area going to look like in 10, 20, 30, 40 years. If it looks like it's going to be really built out during that time frame, I would be really suspicious of any property that is right on the busy road. Now, if it's close, like it's in the neighborhood, but it's not right on the road, I'm not as concerned. But it is like that really like roadside properties that I'm more concerned about. Okay, I feel like I've beaten this one to death. Let's move it along. All right, let's go ahead and take a break here real quick. Those of you who've been watching for a little bit, I have a relocation guide for those of you considering making the move up here to Alaska. If you've not gotten your copy yet, you really should. Go to my website. Link for that is in the description section down below. Make sure you register and you put relocation guide in the comments section so I know what to send you, and I'll get that sent over to you post haste. And also, I know it kind of goes without saying, just with the context of this video, I get most of my actual income from helping people buy and sell real estate. I know a lot of people see the production value I put into for the content on this channel and the podcast and everything, and this stuff doesn't pay the bills. As a matter of fact, the revenue I get from YouTube does not even cover the editing costs that goes into maintaining this channel. So if you want to support me and support this channel, feel free to reach out to me. Let's talk a little bit and see how best I can help you. Okay, let's move it along. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to tell you is you have to understand the responsibility for catching things that are going to be an issue on the disclosures is ultimately going to be with you. Okay, I am going to review the disclosures with you and try to find, issues that really stand out to me. But ultimately, the buck stops with you when it comes to finding things about the property that it's not going to work for you. If there's, let's just say, like some issue with, mold in the crawl space or mold somewhere else, and they disclose that, it is going to be your responsibility to see that, ask questions, and make sure that you're comfortable with whatever the answers are. If you're not, then, we're out and we just go find you another one. And I'm going to be doing everything I can to make sure that we're catching that and being proactive and making sure that you're aware of it ahead of time, but that it's ultimately going to be your responsibility, contractually with the buyer representation agreement for working up here in Alaska. It is going to be your responsibility to find that stuff. So ask a lot of questions if you're unsure. Even if you're not sure, ask questions just to verify. All right, now this next one, it's going to be really situational, but in my experience, if we are working as buyers or as sellers, sometimes you come in contact with some really difficult, stupid people, and they can really mess up the entire transaction. If you have a really good property, but you've got unreliable or unpredictable or just dumb people on the other side, they can mess up the most easiest transaction. And I've seen other transactions where the house was terrible. Okay, there was no reason the process should have been smooth or easy, but because there were good people on both sides and communication was open and we're more problem solving and working together, then we were able to come to a solution fairly easily. But just know that if we're working with someone that is really difficult for whatever reason, there comes a time to where it might be best just to cut your losses and get the heck out of there sooner than later. And unfortunately, you just don't know about this until it's too late. I found one thing that does work pretty well. If you want to get an idea for what it's going to be like working with someone, go look them up on the court view, and that's public information, and you can take a look at the court view record and just go, okay, well, this person, clean as a whistle, no problems here whatsoever, or, hey, this person's got, 4 or 5 different criminal convictions on their record. You think the transaction's going to be a little rocky? I bet it is. And that's kind of a pro tip for you. So use that or don't use it as you wish. All right, last but not least, this isn't really a fatal mistake that's going to make you not buying a house, but it is still a big mistake in the process because it can cost you thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and that is disclosing to the tax man how much you paid for the property. Alaska is a non-disclosure state, and what that means is you don't have to tell the tax assessor how much you actually paid for the property. And so they kind of take their best guess and they kind of use averages and all that to try to get a sense for what you paid for the property, but they don't know for sure. One thing to keep in mind, though, is they can legally ask you how much you paid for it, and you can legally ignore it and throw their notice away. They'll send you another notice. It's going to sound slightly more threatening, and it's going to look official because it is official, but you can throw that notice away as well. Alaska is a non-disclosure state. You do not have to tell them how much you paid for it. And if you do disclose to them how much you paid for it, they are just going to be jacking up your taxes. Now, if they say the assessment is like $450 and you only paid like $400 for it, yeah, by all means, disclose that. But 9 times out of 10, just stay silent, okay? All right, this has been the video talking about the 7 fatal mistakes of buying a home in Alaska. If you have any questions or you're thinking about doing this in the near future, feel free to reach out to me. This is kind of stuff that we go over here in the course of my buyer consultation. We'll make sure that you're up to speed and you're ready to make a purchase up here like an absolute pro. And thanks for hanging out with me, and we'll see you next time.